King without a crown, Alcaraz wins the world, loses Roland Garros. Welcome back to Court Vision Plus, the only place on the internet where we treat tennis the way it deserves to be treated, as the most dramatic, most emotional, most completely unhinged sport on the planet. And folks, do we have a story for you today? Because in the span of just 1 week, Carlos Alcaraz managed to reach the absolute pinnacle of world sport, walk a red carpet like a movie star, deliver a speech that would make grown men cry, and then, in almost the same breath, confirm that he won't be defending his French Open title. 2 Grand Slams in a row. Gone. Just like that. If you thought tennis was going to give you a quiet, peaceful clay season, you clearly haven't been paying attention. Sit down, buckle up, and let's talk about everything that just happened, because this week was a lot. Let's start at the beginning, at the glamour, at the moment that felt almost too cinematic to be real. Monday, April 20th, Cibeles Palace in Madrid. One of the most iconic venues in all of Spain, lit up like a movie premiere. The red carpet was out, the cameras were flashing, the legends were assembled, and right in the middle of all of it, surrounded by his parents and his brothers, smiling that smile that makes you feel like everything in the world is going to be fine, was Carlos Alcaraz. 22 years old. 7-time Grand Slam champion. And on this particular evening, the laureate World Sportsman of the Year. Let that sink in for a second. The Laureate World Sports Awards, sometimes called the Oscars of sport, is the kind of event that reminds you just how extraordinary athletic greatness really is. This is the award that Roger Federer won 5 times. The award that Rafael Nadal won twice, that Novak Djokovic has collected 5 times across his legendary career. And now Carlos Alcaraz gets to put his name next to those men. He is now officially part of that conversation, not just on the court, but in the annals of sporting history. At 22. The room itself was a who's who of sporting royalty. The ceremony was co-hosted by none other than Novak Djokovic and Olympic freestyle skiing champion Eileen Gu, which is an extraordinarily glamorous pairing when you think about it.
And more are about to be made tonight. 11 awards will be given this evening, and we've talked a lot about this. Shall we present one?
Let's do it.
Djokovic, a 5-time winner of this very award, standing on stage handing out trophies instead of receiving them, which is its own kind of passing of the torch energy. And alongside Djokovic on stage were Spanish football legends Luis Figo and Iker Casillas, who were the ones who actually placed that trophy in Alcaraz's hands. In Spain. In front of a home crowd. You genuinely cannot write this stuff. Now let's talk about the competition, because winning this award was not a formality. The field that Alcaraz had to beat out for World Sportsman of the Year was absolutely stacked. We're talking Jannik Sinner, his arch-rival and the man who just beat him at Monte Carlo. We're talking Tadej Pogačar, the cycling phenomenon who has been absolutely devouring professional cycling for the last 2 years. We're talking Ousmane Dembele, who just helped Paris Saint-Germain win their first ever UEFA Champions League title. Armand Duplantis, the pole vault world record machine. Marc Marquez, the motorcycle racing legend who has been reborn. And Alcaraz beat all of them. Every single one. Because what he did in 2025 was simply beyond argument. Cast your mind back to 2025. Alcaraz won 8 ATP titles in total that year, the most of anyone on tour. He captured the French Open in a 5-set final against Sinner that will go down as one of the greatest matches in Grand Slam history. A match that lasted 5 hours and 29 minutes, where Alcaraz came back from the brink, saved championship points, and refused to lose. He then won the US Open, wrestling the world #1 ranking away from Sinner in the process and finishing the year at the top of the world. He beat Sinner in 4 of their 6 final meetings during the year. He was the story of the 2025 season, full stop. And then, just to remind everyone that he's playing an entirely different game, he opened 2026 by going straight to the Australian Open, no warm-up events, no gradual build, and winning the whole thing, beating Novak Djokovic in the final to become the youngest man in the Open era to complete a career Grand Slam. He was 22 years old and he had already won all 4 majors. 22. Let that number rattle around in your head for a moment. Roger Federer didn't complete a career Grand Slam until he was 25. Djokovic was 23. Nadal was 24. Alcaraz did it at 22, and he did it at the Australian Open, which had been the one major that seemed to elude him. So when he walked onto that stage at Sibyll's Palace and accepted that trophy, he wasn't just collecting an award. He was being recognized by the greatest athletes in the world, across every sport, as the single most outstanding performer of an entire year. And the way he handled the moment told you everything you need to know about who Carlos Alcaraz is. He talked about dreaming. He talked about a moment 3 years ago when he received the Laureus Breakthrough Award in Paris, and he stood in a room and met Lionel Messi, his childhood hero, who was picking up the Sportsman Award that year. And he said that in that moment, he had a dream. He thought to himself, maybe one day I'll join Messi on that list. Maybe one day I'll be standing where he's standing. And then on Monday night, that dream came true.
Hello everyone, just really happy to be part of a really exclusive list of the winners of the Sportsman of the year. So just really happy.
He said standing alongside Messi, Federer, Djokovic, and of course Rafa Nadal, following in the footsteps of giants, made the moment so special. He went on to speak about Jannik Sinner in a way that genuinely gave you chills. He said, I want to especially thank Jannik Sinner. Because if we hadn't been pushing each other across the net, if they hadn't been forcing each other to reach levels they never thought possible, he doesn't think either of them would have achieved what they achieved. That is a remarkable thing for a competitor to say. That is a level of self-awareness and graciousness that you don't always get from the very best athletes at the very top of their game. But then, Alcaraz has always been different in that way. He's always understood that the rivalry makes both of them better, that Sinner is not his enemy but his greatest motivator. And that's important context, because let's be honest, Sinner had just beaten Alcaraz in the Monte Carlo Masters final before the Laureus ceremony. He reclaimed the world #1 ranking in the process. So Alcaraz walked onto that red carpet having just lost to his rival, and he still stood up and thanked Sinner publicly for making him better. That's not weakness. That's the kind of mental architecture that only real champions are built with. He also walked that red carpet with something else people noticed immediately, a brace on his right wrist. And that's where our story takes a turn, because underneath all the glamour and the gold trophies and the acceptance speeches, there was a wrist injury quietly making its presence known. And it was going to change everything about the clay season. The injury had first appeared during the Barcelona Open on April 14th, when Alcaraz needed medical treatment on his right wrist and forearm during a first-round victory. The very next day, he withdrew from the tournament before his scheduled second-round match against Tomas Macaque. That was the first domino. Then came the news that he would not play the Mutua Madrid Open, his home event, a tournament he adores, a city that treats him like royalty, for the second consecutive year. Last year it was leg injuries. This year, the wrist. At the Laureus ceremony, when asked about the injury, Alcaraz was measured but honest. He said he could be feeling better, to be honest. These things happen.
I told my team, I told my family, I just hope to win the Sportsman of the Year one day. So right now, holding this trophy and say my name next to the legends of the sport, the icons.
He said he was hoping it was nothing serious, but he didn't know yet. He was waiting on more tests. And then he said something that stayed with a lot of people who heard it. He said it's not about if you get injured, it's about when you get injured, and how you come back. That's a 22-year-old speaking with the composure of someone twice his age. That's someone who has clearly thought deeply about the long game. He also said, and this was important, that he'd rather come back a little later and with a full recovery than rush back and risk making things worse. That's not just good media management. That's a genuine philosophy. The man understands his own body and his own career trajectory in a way that's genuinely rare at his age. But the tests came back, and the news was hard. On Friday, April 25th, Alcaraz posted on social media with the official confirmation the tennis world had been dreading. After the results of the tests carried out today, we have decided that the most prudent thing is to be cautious and not participate in Rome and Roland Garros, while we wait to assess the evolution to decide when we will return to the court. This is a difficult time for me, but I am sure we will come out of it stronger. There were photos and videos circulating this week of Rafa Nadal Sr. hitting tennis balls at the Madrid Open grounds with Iga Swiatek and Jannik Sinner, and naturally, he brought his son along. And little Rafa, 3 years old, all charm and energy and inherited charisma, immediately became the most talked about presence at the entire event. There were videos of Jannik Sinner breaking into a massive smile watching little Rafa running around the court. There were photos of Iga Swiatek getting a high five from the kid, which is quite possibly the most adorable thing that has happened in professional tennis in years. But this wasn't the first time little Rafa captivated the tennis world. Cast your mind back to last year's Roland Garros, May 2025, when Nadal returned to Paris for a tribute ceremony on court Philippe Chatrier. The stands were full. The fans were wearing Merci Rafa shirts. They had formed the shape of a heart in the upper deck. There were tears everywhere. And at the most emotional moment, Rafa picked up his son, this tiny, beaming little person, and carried him across the clay, while the crowd roared. And then Rafa Jr. gave high fives to Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, and Andy Murray backstage, because apparently this child is completely unfazed by being in the presence of 4 of the greatest tennis players ever to pick up a racket. What makes the whole Nadal father-son story so genuinely moving is what Rafa has said about it. He's never pushed the idea of little Rafa becoming a tennis player. He's only ever said that if his son experiences the sport the way he did, with passion, with joy, without feeling like he's missing out on life, then of course he would support it. He's not manufacturing a legacy. He's just being a father. And if little Rafa one day picks up a racket and falls in love with the game the way his father did, the tennis world will absolutely lose its collective mind. But for now, he's just a 3-year-old stealing high fives from legends, and honestly, that's enough. Now, let's take a moment to zoom out and look at the bigger picture of Alcaraz's season, because context matters here, and the context is actually more hopeful than some of the recent headlines might suggest. This has been a complicated few months for Carlos, no question. The sunshine swing in America, Miami and Indian Wells, was tough. The quick turnaround to clay didn't help.
Thank you. Can I keep it? Yeah, please. Nice haircut, bro. I didn't throw it. Thank you.
There have been questions about his transition away from coach Juan Carlos Ferrero, with figures like former Italian player Adriano Panatta suggesting publicly that parting from Ferrero was a mistake. Ferrero, of course, was instrumental in shaping Alcaraz into the player he is. He was there for virtually every major breakthrough, every Grand Slam title, every landmark moment. But here's the thing, Alcaraz is 22 years old. He is still developing as a player, still evolving as a person, still figuring out what serves him best at this stage of his career. The idea that he has made some catastrophic error by exploring a different coaching dynamic is, frankly, premature. Champions grow, change, and sometimes need different voices in their ears at different points in their journey. The results he produced in 2025, 8 titles, 2 Grand Slams, finishing world number 1, don't exactly suggest a player who is broken. And the way he talks about his career, the long-term thinking he consistently demonstrates, suggests a young man who knows exactly what he's doing. The injury is real and the pain of missing Roland Garros is real. But this is also only the second Grand Slam that Alcaraz has ever missed in his career, the first being the 2023 Australian Open when he had a hamstring issue. This is not a pattern. This is not a crisis. This is a 22-year-old body dealing with the enormous physical demands of being one of the 2 best tennis players on the planet, playing in an era where both he and his rival are pushing each other to extraordinary extremes. And here's the part worth remembering, grass season is coming. Wimbledon is coming. The tournament that Alcaraz has already won twice. The surface where he is perhaps the most devastating player of his generation. If this wrist heals properly, and the decision to be cautious rather than rush back strongly suggests it will, then we could be getting a fully fit, fully motivated, Slightly hungry and slightly angry Carlos Alcaraz arriving at the All England club in June, ready to remind everyone exactly what he's capable of. And that, frankly, should terrify every other player on the tour. Because when Carlos Alcaraz is healthy, fully fit, and with a point to prove, there is no one on this planet who plays tennis like him. The athleticism, the shot-making, the competitive fire, the emotional intelligence, the sheer joy he brings to the game, it's a combination that is genuinely unique in the modern era. He is not Federer. He is not Nadal. He is not Djokovic or Sinner. He is Carlos Alcaraz, and he is his own extraordinary thing, still being written. 1 week. A Laureus trophy raised in front of the world. A wrist brace that changed the story. A 3-year-old charming Sinner and Swiatek in Madrid. A Roland Garros title left undefended. It's been a lot. It's been tennis doing what tennis always does, giving you everything and nothing, sometimes within the same 24 hours. And through all of it, the man at the center of the storm has carried himself with a dignity and a maturity that should give every single fan total confidence in where this story is going. This is not the end of something. This is a chapter. A difficult chapter, maybe. But in the story of Carlos Alcaraz, the difficult chapters have a habit of being followed by something extraordinary. There is so much still to come from this kid. And we will be here for every single second of it. If you made it this far, thank you, genuinely. This is the kind of tennis we live for here at Court Vision Plus, and we could not do it without you. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. It takes 2 seconds and it means the world to us. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Where do you think Alcaraz goes from here? Does Sinner win Roland Garros with Carlos out? Is there a realistic path back to Wimbledon? We want to hear from you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? We are here every week, covering every twist and turn of the most dramatic sport on earth. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Vamos!